Hello everyone and welcome back, and today we shall be reviewing the sequel to The Force Unleashed, Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2. Now, will this one be as good as the first one? We'll just have to see. So the game opens up with the planet Kamino as we see Darth Vader's TIE Advance landing down, and already one big highlight of this game is definitely the improved cutscene of its graphics and quality. Very good. I really like the detail for this one on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 one, definitely. Though I've never played the Wii version before, but maybe I'll save that for another time. Vader then enters a huge room, and then we see Starkiller, but however, this is a clone. Yes, this is the way they brought him back. Moving forward, Vader brings him up to speak to him, and tells him that Coda is on that one planet Obi-Wan Kenobi mentioned from Revenge of the Sith. And sorry, I forget names sometimes, and yeah. And the clone Starkiller starts hearing voices of him from the previous game. I'll probably just call him just Starkiller instead of the clone Starkiller from now on. It's just more simpler that way. But not only is Starkiller haunted by the past, but he was also haunted by several things that he can hear in his head. Vader tells him that they are memories of a dead man, and that they are side effects of the cloning process. So therefore, we get sent into the usual training with us fighting off training droids that become rebels, and even Juno as well. And if you try to strike at Juno, it will trigger a flash of voices from her. Once the training is done, Starkiller almost strikes down Juno, but hesitates despite that Vader wants him to, and that he was created to do his bidding, but Starkiller refuses, and Vader goes like, "Fine, I'll do it myself." Vader then says it is as I feared to Starkiller, saying that the cloning process is still imperfect. Those that came before him went mad within months. And he thought that he would be the first success. And Starkiller asks what would he do with him, and all of a sudden he gets a flashback to the betrayal from the first game, and thus this causes Starkiller to force lightning Vader, and he escapes. Okay, first off, how did Vader not see this coming? And second of all, the fact that he survived that much force lightning is crazy. But back to the story, Starkiller is now free-falling Kratos style, and he crashes down through the glass ceiling and basically force smacks down all the troopers, and this is where the real game begins. Now, gameplay-wise, we already have two lightsabers, which is more fun, obviously, with the combos you can do and all, and even with more powerful force powers. I find it very ironic how both Starkiller and Ahsoka are very parallel to each other. Both first wielded a single-bladed lightsaber backwards, and then they do the same but with two. And the fact they were also taught by the Chosen One, of course. Sure. As we make our escape through Kamino, we learned a new Force ability, Jedi Mind Trick. Then we basically fight what looks like a Bionicle or a Transformer that uses Carbonite on us. But we just get through it fine and everything else. Close to the end of the level, we use some TIE Fighters to make a bridge, and then we unlock what is basically this game's version of Spartan Rage. Then, after taking care of the AT-ST and troopers, we literally steal Vader's TIE Advanced and go off to rescue Coda. Okay, can I just say, why doesn't Vader... Why? Just why? Why doesn't Vader have his own kind of personal lock system on his own starfighter, his own TIE Fighter thing? Wouldn't that make more sense? I mean, if put in that context, I think Starkiller would have better off to go find an actual TIE Fighter and use it to escape. That's really kind of just... wow, I'm out of words for that, honestly. Well, moving on from that, we go to the planet, and I apologize since I forget its name, we'll just call it the Hanging City, I guess, and yeah. We see the arena, and we see that Coda is alive and being held captive there. The Baron gets word that Vader has arrived, and instead of expecting Vader, he sees Starkiller, and then he asks him what the codes are, but Starkiller doesn't know, and yeah, we start blasting. We then see a new AT, I forget its name, but it shoots missiles, but we can force scrap or deflect it with our lightsabers to defeat it. But then we encounter the Sith acolytes, who are immune to our force powers, so we have to use our lightsabers to defeat them. And yeah, great enemies, honestly. They're a nice touch. I like them. Along the way through the level, we get a returning ability, that being lightsaber throw, and then we are running away from a large ship with a machine gun, and we survive. Then we get onto the train to the Gladiator Arena. We protect the train from TIE Fighters and face off against the large ship we just saw earlier. And we defeat it with these. And if you put this on higher difficulty, this could be a challenge. Just saying. A cutscene plays, and then the train starts exploding as Starkiller reaches its destination. He makes an epic jump with the first game's main theme playing, and that is just so awesome, guys. It really is. The next level starts, and basically, I will say for all this, it's just constantly fighting through waves of Imperial forces, and there's really just not much to say for this part. It's really short and fast, to be honest. But we do fight the large ship again at the end, and yeah, we just like push into some structures, and then we use it as a small quick time bridge, and yeah, we're just in time for the arena. We enter the arena, seeing lots of people watching us, and then we cut to the Baron, who demands to send out the Gorog. Starkiller tells Coda that he can sit this one out, and Coda is relieved that Starkiller is alive. As the gate opens, a Rancor appears and charges towards the two, but Starkiller gives a little smirk since it seems that he is very familiar with that creature, of course, to deal with it. But then a large hand grabs the Rancor, and then we fight the Gorog. We fight the beast alone, and we go after its metal things on its hand, the restraints, and we push it back into the little thing to restrain it by pressing very, very, very constantly. We do this a couple more times while using force to like move its head around to damage it. We do, yeah, this is kind of a really boring fight, honestly. But then we get on top of its head and like we get rid of this metal plate thing. I don't know what it really is, what it does. I really just don't know. But yeah, everything breaks loose. The Gorog is free, and then we fight it while we're being on one of the upper levels of the arena. So yeah. And we got some troopers to fight as well, so yeah. Overall, this boss fight is just simply kind of boring, honestly. I'm really got nothing to say for this. We're just like kind of fighting this constantly with force lightning or even lightsaber throw if you're really gonna do such a thing for it. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess, but yeah, pointless. But yeah. Once we do a significant amount of damage to do what we need to do to get over, Starkiller regroups with Coda and literally vaporizes the stormtroopers with force lightning. Yeah, I'm not kidding. And then the Baron gets eaten by the Gorog, and then Coda gets caught in the Gorog's hand, and then we go after it, free falling, and then basically, yeah, we use force lightning very constantly, and yeah, we're done here. We're pretty done here. Yeah. Coda then asks Starkiller if he has a way out of this, but he replies saying that he wasn't thinking far ahead, but luckily Coda replies saying, let's hope she can reach us in time, and then the rogue shadow appears and catches them, and that concludes our time in the Hanging City. I'm sorry if I forget its name, but I might just, yeah. In the rogue shadow, Starkiller rushes in to hopefully see Juno, but she's not there. He asks Coda where she is, and he says he's lost contact with her after he was captured, and he does mention that his alliance is on the run, and now that he is back, they could fully strike back against the Empire, but however, Starkiller tells them that he's a clone. Coda is surprised by this, but he says that no one can clone a Jedi, and he says that Starkiller could provide the information to Kamino, but Starkiller refuses, and he wants to go somewhere else to hide or to think. And I'm gonna be honest, I have to be honest, and I have to ask, what were the writers trying to go with the clone Starkiller arc? Seriously, are they trying to focus on Starkiller coming to terms that maybe he isn't a clone, and he might actually still be the real Starkiller? Or are they trying to tell us that he needs to learn how to accept himself as a clone? I'm really not honestly sure, but it's kind of really just kind of very questioning, honestly. And maybe he is a clone, maybe he's not a clone, but you know. Yeah, I'm really not honestly sure how to answer this, but yeah. But Coda then literally also mentions like places like Kashyyyk or Dagobah after their argument, and Starkiller literally decides to go to Dagobah, all because of Coda's mention of it. Yeah, I could see the many problems people have with this kind of game. Not just like overall the game, but I guess the writing and the plot. I'm gonna really admit this, yeah, there's a lot of problems here with character and writing, definitely is, but wow. God, wow. After 26 years, wow. Okay. The next cutscene brings us back to Kamino, where Boba Fett is hired by Darth Vader to find Juno in order to lure out Starkiller, which I gotta say is pretty good use and great use there, but Boba will need a squad of stormtroopers, and he knows that they won't be coming back. But however, Vader provides him whatever he needs, and that means more interesting enemy types we'll get to see real soon. Our next level opens up on Dagobah as we see Starkiller land the Rogue Shadow and exiting the ship. And what does this planet have to offer? Well, there's some holocrons for collectibles, and we're about to enter the cave that Luke went into from The Empire Strikes Back, and wait, that's it? Oh, well, I'm sure there will be something after once this cutscene's over, maybe once we're in the cave. Okay, Starkiller's clothes change a bit. I suppose we're gonna go back to gameplay? No? Okay, suddenly there's a bunch of different Starkillers popping up from the vines. They're trying to grab him, and he has his lightsabers to defend himself, so yeah. And they're trying, and the other Starkillers are saying to help him, but help us or whatever, but he doesn't help them, and they're, yeah. I suppose this is like a vision to show what would happen in the future, kind of like where in the cave, Luke faced off against Vader, but it turned out to be a vision to like show what would happen to him if he joined the dark side. Yeah. We then see the room change as we see Juno clips as she speaks on the announcer mic, but then an explosion happens and she gets shot, and the vision ends and Starkiller leaves the cave, and that's it. Yeah. That's it for Dagobah. Yeah. If I'm being honest, I think Yoda and Boba Fett were just there because of the marketing and basically trying to hype this game up, because they're honestly, they are iconic characters in Star Wars, so yeah. You would think they would have big and important roles with Starkiller in this game, but no. Yoda just talks to him, and we just, and yeah, that's really it for Yoda. I'm really out of words for this one, honestly. Yeah. But yeah, we'll get to see Boba Fett real soon. After that, we meet up with the Rebel fleet, and we enter the Salvation, where Juno is also on that ship. Now, here's the thing about this. Coda mentioned about a planet that Starkiller picked him up from, and I feel like there was supposed to be like a mission, but I guess it was cut from the game. Would have been cool. Would have been a cool mission. I mean, if it was actually in the game, could have easily extended the game's like hour-long time, I guess. But yeah, once aboard the Salvation, the Starkiller and Coda talk for a bit, and Starkiller gives him the navigation coordinates to Kamino, and then the Salvation is now under attack, so we rush to the bridge to make sure that Juno's okay. But once we enter the bridge, it is in ruin, and then Proxy appears. Now, listen here, everyone. There is actually a reason why Proxy is still alive. You see, when I was a kid, I had this big comic graphic book of the first Force Unleashed game, and the first few pages, it showed Bail Organa and Juno found Proxy, and they managed to revive him, at least that's how far I can remember from the beginning. I know it exists out there. I just need to like find it and go buy it again someday. But yeah, back to the game. Starkiller asks where's Juno, and Proxy replies that the Imperials must have taken her towards Deck 7, aka the docking bay. So Starkiller wastes no time and goes right off there. But Proxy warns him by showing a protection of Boba Fett, letting Starkiller know who has Juno hostage. As he makes his way through the ship, Starkiller encounters these little spider droids known as Terror Droids. And this is also where we learn an old Force ability once again, that being Force Repulse, which pretty much becomes the most useful Force power throughout the entire game. Yeah. Afterwards, we make it to Juno, only to find her unconscious, and we're stopped by a force field or something. And we're stopped by a shield blocking our path, so we must find a different route. And on that different route, we face a new enemy, the Terror Trooper, I think so, but yeah. This enemy can move like very fast, and it also has the invisible kind of thing as well, and it can shoot out these yellow stun bolts. Overall, pretty cool, honestly, and I love the design and the uniqueness to this, because it has the General Grievous kind of inspired like mask, which also appears on another bigger enemy. Taking the alternative path back to where we found Juno, she's then taken away by Boba Fett, and Starkiller just stands there, yeah. Okay, right there, what the hell, honestly, like, Starkiller, like, why did you just stood there and did nothing? Like, in reality, he would have just immediately force pushed through the glass, and then basically we could have gotten a Boba Fett boss fight right then and there. Honestly, a shame. But believe me, this is not the last time we see Boba Fett, as we see him literally take off in his ship. Starkiller, seriously, stop wasting valuable time, honestly. Okay. Starkiller then calls in Coda and demands that the fleet attacks Kamino, and Coda has already done so, but he knows that Vader is just only luring him back to Kamino, so yeah. Starkiller then sees the giant spider droid, and then he goes after it in a big power core chamber thing. And this here is a unique boss fight with the whole powering up generators and batteries to get the spider droid's shield down. Once we do so, we literally ride the actual thing and force it to go into the power core, and which overloads it, and yeah, that's the end of the boss fight and the end of the level. Starkiller is then back in the hangar room where rebels are preparing for the assault on Kamino. As we exit out of hyperspace, a whole fleet of the Empire was prepared and waiting for us. Thus, the battle begins with starfighters on both sides going into an intense dogfight. Can I just say, I love the amount of ships that there are here. There are some pretty unique ones you never usually get to see in Star Wars anymore, but it's a nice touch. Back to Starkiller, we now must defend the Salvation from invading Imperial boarding parties. Once we're done in the hangar, Coda needs us to get back to the bridge. So we do so while fighting off Imperial forces along the way, and we can see the battle taking place in space as we make our way through. As it does seem to getting worse and worse by the minute with both sides having a large amount of damage done here and there. Oh, and we face off a new droid variant, a red and fire one. It's basically the same as the other one, but just with fire. And like any other, and we pretty much dealt with it with ease. Yeah, there's really not much honestly to say about this level. Well, other than Starkiller using the Force to fire up a big cannon to shoot a Star Destroyer. On to the next cutscene. Rebels can be heard and wanting to order a retreat, but Coda denies and wants to keep pressing the attack. Proxy says that the ship is falling apart too. Starkiller says to head to the Rogue Shadow, and he's sure that ship can survive a direct hit from a cruiser. Coda then says abandoned ship, and he and Proxy head off while Starkiller stays behind to clear a path on the bridge. The beginning of the level is kind of fun with us using the Force to clear the debris of destroyed ships to crash down into Kamino. Once we enter the planet's surface, the heat starts to really build up, and we use Force push to get out of there just in time, and we free fall down to Kamino alongside the Salvation. And then Starkiller grabs a TIE fighter, and wow, okay, the amount of strength he's got for that, wow. And then we went down back onto Kamino, and then we start making our way through the facilities, just fighting waves and waves of Imperial forces. And this is basically the part where, okay, you've seen about every single enemy in the game, so we're just gonna throw everything at you now. Near the end of the level, we find ourselves in a whole cloning facility where there are cloning pods everywhere, and Starkiller can sense that they are strong in the Force, and then we're off to find Juno and fight Vader. Yeah. So to be honest, I really didn't have a lot saying going over the last two levels, because it's just going around, fighting and jumping from one area to another. So yeah, let's just get to the last level. We enter a dark room after taking the elevator ride up, and then we encounter Vader in the hallways a few times, and we get hit with flashbacks from the beginning of the game, and we hear voices of Juno and Coda. Once we exit the dark hallways, we find Vader, and thus this begins the final boss. And I'm gonna be honest with you, after all these years, I'm not much of a fan of this boss at all. I just kind of find it boring. Though Vader does summon the clones of Starkiller, but you could just use giant mind trick on them to fight against him, so yeah. Sometimes this fight just goes very slow at times. It's just kind of drags a bit, and then yeah. And that's because Vader actually just uses his lightsaber to block so often, so yeah. Oh, and did I forget to mention, there are less boss fights in this game. Yeah. And this is literally the only and last time we'll fight someone with a lightsaber, and that is only a Sith. Near the end of the fight, we basically go up platforms and all, and just to continue our fight with Vader. We then do a saber clash, and then suddenly Starkiller gets a future flash of him and Juno. Yeah, future vision flash, I guess. Vader, for some reason, just punches Starkiller, which I find funny, honestly. Yeah. I mean, despite the fact that he could just finish him off right then and there, but no. He then hops onto one of the floating droids instead of Starkiller. He then makes it to a different room where Vader is holding Juno hostage and uses the Force to choke her. Starkiller will then do his bidding and ask Vader to let her go, and so he does. And then Vader tasks Starkiller to find and kill General Coda and the other rebel leaders. and if he were to fail, Juno would die. And this right here, folks, is basically where Juno tries to fight back literally one of the most powerful Sith Lords in history. And do you know how Vader responds? Literally force pushing her out of the room and onto the platform outside. Yep, that's what happens. Then Starkiller rages and then fights Vader one final time. And then we basically get unlimited Spartan rage to fight him. And yeah, we are basically unstoppable now, so we can hit Vader way more than before with our lightsabers. Once Vader's close to his last bit of health, there comes a now series of quick time events, and we use Force Lightning to shock the hell out of Vader for like a minute. He literally survived all of that. That would have technically killed him, but, hey, you know. And then, of course, this iconic meme. You've taken everything from me!
Your feelings for her are not real.
They are real to me! Coda then stops Starkiller from striking down Vader, and Coda tells him that they need him alive to reveal the Empire's secrets and put him on trial, and then they can execute him to show the galaxy that they don't need to fear him any longer, but Starkiller tells him that if he lets him live, he'll haunt him forever. But Coda replies saying that he is the only one that knows if Starkiller will survive, so here's the choice. Light side or dark side? I am a Sith, so of course we'll choose the dark side ending, and there was indeed another Starkiller clone that was basically perfect. And I believe in the extras, there's actually a few cutscenes where you can press play to watch the story of the Dark Starkiller clone story, which I think makes this kind of story canon, the dark side ending canon, honestly. Yeah. Now for the light side ending. We arrest Vader, and with the power of love, Juno comes back, and that concludes the Force Unleashed 2. And, yeah, that's it. So, the second game overall is pretty decent. I will say there are some aspects that are actually good, while some are actually rather confusing, to which I believe it goes with the whole Starkiller clone identity crisis arc. The gameplay overall is awesome, and the graphics are too, and I only wish there were more bosses and more levels due to how short this game really is. And the fact that this game was pretty rushed, so yeah. So overall, Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2, it's a pretty decent Star Wars game, it's a solid Star Wars game, but this was obviously marking the end of the era of Lucas games, as we all know, of what would become. So yeah, this game gets like a 6.8 out of 10. Now for the final DLC. So, the final DLC of this game, unless you really want to count the other DLC costumes, very much be my guest. This is an alternative version of Return of the Jedi, as now as the Dark Clone of Starkiller, we make our way through Endor fighting rebels, and we get to destroy the Ewoks, and it's honestly so fun just using our overpowered force powers on them. It's funny, it's fun, and I love it. Making our way to the base, we face off against Han and Chewie. Chewie is piloting an AT-ST, while Han is using a rocket launcher, so yeah. Yeah, pretty much a pretty solid fight, I guess. It's kind of like just like going back and forth between Han using the missiles, then we gotta force grab them, and then form back to Chewie. Yeah. Once we're done with that, we get a quick time event, and we get a brutal and sad end for Han Solo and Chewie.
Chewie!
Once inside, we make our way through the base, now finding both Imperials and Rebels alike. And at last, we get the final boss of the DLC, Jedi Leia. And I will say, this is at its peak. Definitely one of the more best what-if scenarios for sure. Leia using a yellow lightsaber and basically one of the most fun bosses in this DLC. Yeah, it's got pretty fun. As we progress in the fight, we get to a more higher platform. We continue on from here on out until we get the final quick time event of the game, and this is how it ends.
It's over, you rebel scum.
With Leia defeated, we then see Vader and Palpatine watching the battle unfold as today marks the death of the rebellion and a new era of peace for the Empire. But there is one last detail to take care of, that meeting that Palpatine is fully aware of the Starkiller clone's existence, and then he says this.
Now, Skywalker, you will die.
He then Force Lightnings Vader, and he calls down to destroy the clone. As the last scene plays out, we see Starkiller waiting as the Star Destroyer comes in, flies in, and then we see his eyes open, and it ends. And that's how it ends. For this one, 10 out of 10. Yeah, I mean, hey, it's better than the actual story, but than the main story, then, you know. But yeah, so that is overall it for The Force Unleashed 2. I guess while we're still at it here, we can talk about some other stuff. Now, before we end this, I do want to say some other things. So, yeah. So, did you know that Starkiller's actual debut was actually in Soul Calibur 4? Yeah. Literally, that was his first debut in that game. That came out 2 months before the actual Force Unleashed game came out. There was also a Lego set of the Rogue Shadow, and the only Force Unleashed Lego set with Juno, Starkiller, and Vader. Plus, there was surprisingly a lot of Force Unleashed merchandise, pretty high at the time, alongside with the Force Unleashed 2 as well. Though, it is rather sad that we will never get a Force Unleashed 3. But there has been some references of the Force Unleashed here and there in Star Wars canon. So, for my final conclusion, I think personally, the Force Unleashed games were definitely, if not, without a doubt, one of the best Star Wars games of all time. I've been with these games since I was a kid, and it's still with me today. And since Starkiller has become one of my absolute favorite Star Wars characters of all time, and even after with The Force Unleashed 2, so yeah. So thus, I conclude this by saying Star Wars The Force Unleashed 1 and 2 were without a doubt, to me, the biggest revolution to me as a kid, as it was my introduction to Star Wars, and my introduction to the whole entire gaming industry as well. The gaming world. Yes. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe and share. And may the Force be with you. Always.